I remember one, but,
Bring my glasses around my computer.
BCD&E? Okay. Okay. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, July 19, 2016. This is the regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Johnson, Figueroa Villa, Saltzman, and Kim are present, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. As we begin today's meeting, I'd again like to say a few words about the events of the past week. The monstrous attack in Nice, France, the atrocity against 3 brave officers in Baton Rouge who died in a cowardly ambush by an assassin with high-powered weaponry. These are senseless, outrageous acts of violence, and they shake our sense of security. We all want to enjoy outdoor celebrations with our children without fear. We all need to have confidence that the men and women who protect and serve our communities can do so without worrying that they are being targeted by a madman lying in wait. No matter where you stand in this national conversation we are having about use of force, we can all agree that the men and women of the LAPD, along with every law enforcement agency in America and around the world, are the ones we ask to run toward the danger. They're the ones we expect to risk their lives for us every day. These attacks against them must end. At times like this, we are often left wondering what we can do as individuals, as organizations. No one has all the answers, and none of us can predict what will happen. But what I do know is that we can begin with real, constructive, and civil dialogue about the future of policing in our country. I know that not everyone agrees with the speed or the manner in which this commission is looking at how to heal the relationship between our police department and those who lack trust in it. I know not everyone is completely satisfied by the work we are doing to further minimize the use of force, especially deadly force, by our officers. That's okay. That's what democracy is all about. That's why we want to hear from you, learn from you. But today, as we look back on these tragedies we have seen over the past few weeks, I will simply plead with everyone to take a step back. Whether you are a commissioner, an officer, or a critic, to give a second thought to the words we use and why we use them. To say and do things that are meant to heal, not to hurt. To resist presuming to know what's in a person's heart. To do all we can to see and honor the humanity that's in all of us. If we can do that, I know we can find consensus on the issues that divide us. I know we can move forward together to find solutions that make everyone safer. We owe it to our city, we owe it to our children, we owe it to each other. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item number 1 of the agenda, consent agenda items. We do have comment cards on all items except for G.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, call, how many comments do we have on 1A?
On 1A, we have 2 comment cards. We have the Red Chief and Prentice Jenkins.
And 1B?
1B, we have 1. 1C, we have 1. 1D, we have 1. 1E, we have 3. And 1F, we have 1.
Okay, let's call all the comments and we'll vote on them at the end.
Okay. For 1A, we have the Red Chief Hunt and Prentice Jenkins.
Excuse me, testing. The Red Chief on for the record. I'm kind of concerned here to travel to Washington to a White House conference for a community policing meeting in criminal justice system. I don't think that we need to travel to Washington. I hear a lot of great words about community-based policing or community policing, but I don't see a lot of action with the actual act of that really happening. Community policing is a wide range. If you have to go to a conference to a White House and criminal justice systems and things like that, I really kind of feel that we can do without that and bridge the gap. We're trying to build here and not go to Washington and ask for questions or anything. Here's what I say about community-based or community policing is it all starts right here. If you don't have a dialogue with your people and you don't know what's going on, then you can't do community policing because your officers would be a lot safer if the community was a lot safer. You wouldn't have to worry about teaming them up in 3 and 4 peoples and being ambushed and things like that. And I'm gonna tell you this right here, you still don't have to worry about that in LA because it's not gonna happen no more. The fire has left out of LA, and I've been on all sides of the wall, from the west side to the east side. There's no more fire like the Rodney King fire that we were putting out 20 years ago. So that's dead and gone. So it is a good thing that you team your officers up so they won't be ambushed, but it'd be better if you teamed your officers up with the community so that we could understand why they're ambushing us.
Prentice Jenkins, and we do have one more comment card on this item. We have Mr. Herman.
Prentice Jenkins, published a City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. Morning, Board.
Good morning.
President. Morning, Chief. We talk about community policing. We're going to the White House for that. And the criminal justice system. Now, remember, Ezell Ford ran into community policing, and he ended up dead. Riddell Jones ran into community policing, and she ended up dead. Solomon Rodriguez, murdered by LAPD officer Henry Solis, he ran into community policing, and they ended up dead. We're going to the White House to determine how we're going to police the community and talk about the criminal justice system. Well, these are the people that we should be talking to about community policing, because we actually live in a community. President Barack Obama does not live in our communities. We do. So why would you be talking to the president about that when you should be talking to us about that, about community policing? So when you start talking to us about community policing, we can show you how to stop shooting unarmed people. Shooting men, killing men just walking down the street, killing a black man who's just walking down the street. When you start talking to us about that, guess what? The killing will stop. And when you start talking about the killings of innocent people in the community stopping, you start talking about stopping the killing of innocent cops. Because what these psychos who killed those cops showed us was cops can die too. They're not bulletproof. Even their bulletproof, even their bulletproof vests are not bulletproof.
Mr. President, he's off the topic, which is about a trip to Washington, D.C.
Mr. Herman?
Mr. Tiefenk, on our trip to Washington, on behalf of the public's interest, you should be aware that it's not what Obama Kabrama can do. It's what we should all be doing, as brought out by the first gentleman, not to mention Mr. Hunt, who basically put it together. You need to talk to us, the public, those of us who actually work and live in the community, those of us who are harmed by the oppressors, the suppressors. Every one of you white Uncle Toms.
Mr. President, this is about a travel authority to
So when we
Washington,
travel to
D.C. for the police
Washington-
chief. He is off topic, sir.
That's
When
your
we
first
travel to
warning.
Washington, Mr. Chair, Our main focus is to bring together unity of the community. It's not about separating us, saying that we can't do a better job.
He's off topic, Mr. President.
Yeah, you
This is about a
forfeited your
travel
time,
authority.
sir.
How can I be off topic? How can I be off topic when I'm talking about Washington?
You forfeited your time, sir. Do we have comments on item 1B?
We have Mr. Herman on 1B.
Mr. Herman, do you have a comment on item 1B?
Donation in the amount of $500 from the Highland Park Ebel Club.
Well, let's go back to July 15th, 2016. Let's talk about the monetary donations, the amount of $500 from the what? Highland Park Club. Now, I'm very familiar with Highland Park, as I am familiar with CD 14 and CD 1. See, I go back to the old school, my elected official. I won't mention his name. He tries his best. He tries his best, even though his wife is disabled. He tries his best to bring Highland Park and Boyle Heights together as they were at one time. One unity, one community, and one happy family. So when talking about Highland Park, let's not talk about the bad things of Highland Park. Let's talk about the donation. The donation for charity, for programs that work in our community, that bring us together and highlight the most important values of our community, and that's to get along. Can't we all just get along? How hard is that? Is it very difficult when we ask for a monetary donation? Or should we simply just say that the authority and its events take first place? The benefit of the Northeast Area Cadet Program. Well, see, Batman knows about cadets. He talks to the cadets and tells them, beware, the force is with you. And when the force of the cadets gets into trouble, nobody protects you better than Batman.
We have another comment card from Mr. Herman on 1C. Donation of a leg curl machine valued at $1,200.
We're talking about a donation for a leg curl machine. Similar to the device I brought in today. A simple device, a cane. A cane that helps us with all this sciatic nerve problems we experience. See, when there's a lot of pressure, tension, and stress, we come up with problems physically, sometimes challengingly, mentally, 5150. But the issue here has to do with physical therapy, Mr. Johnson, the same that we all need to share in. Barney talks about it all the time. Barney talks about therapy in song and dance. I love you, you love me, let's exercise
Mr. President, he's off
our
topic. This is about a
therapy.
donation of $1,200 for a
No, Mr.
piece of
T-Fang.
equipment.
That's your first warning, Mr. Herman.
Mr. T-Fang, I am talking about the therapy. Music, dance, exercise.
Not talking about the donation,
and
sir.
the donation for, you just mentioned it. You just mentioned the donation. Why I have to
Donation
repeat?
for a leg curl machine, Mr. Herman.
Correct. And the leg curl machine is all about therapy. Therapy for our emotions, therapy for our intelligence to understand how to use a leg device to get us through the community and get us through the program here, see? It's just about therapy. See, I still got it at my early age. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to wave back the remaining balance of my time so we can go forward and hear
Okay,
the
do we have any
presentations
comments
of the
on
public.
item 1D?
On 1D, we have Mr. Herman and we have Prentice Jenkins.
Now, isn't this interesting? Item D. The department's report for July 15, 2016, 54954.3. Criticism of a monetary donation for $20,000 allocated to the Los Angeles Police Foundation. to be utilized or authorized for this funding, the service of consultant loans or borrowing for Brandy through the end. See, I stay on topic. That 3 specific tasks targeting new discriminatory, or as I call it, discretionary state and federal funding. Now, how do we double dip in state and federal funding under Title II of the American Disability Act? Or better, how do we ask for accommodations under state and federal dollars? Title III. Now, such accommodations would be welcome in assisting the department for grants under the unit with acquiring new grant funding, such as 42 USC 12132, discrimination. But let's not go that far. Let's stay on topic. Assessing the Los Angeles Police Foundation on the National Institute for Justice body-worn video as brought out by the public in the last month. We got a particular group here that talks about worn videos and how they come after us with those secret cameras, the ones that take only the good pictures and delete and dissolve all the bad pictures. But Batman has a photographic memory, and he reminds you that the public is my eyes, the public is the brain of the machine. They are the ones that keep track.
Francis Jenkins.
Prentice Jenkins, publisher, City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. In suggesting that we give funding for the consulting for Joan Brody through the end of 2016 on 3 specific tasks. One of those tasks are the National Institute for Justice body-worn video. We need to know before you give this funding, will Joan Brody come to the police commission and explain what her activities will be in terms of overseeing this body-worn video? And do we get to ask Joan Brody questions about her overseeing this body-worn video? If it's possible to get Ms. Joan Brody in here, I'll ask the President Johnson, is it possible to get Ms. Brody in here?
She'll be giving her report to the department.
Will it be here?
No.
See, I used to be a salesman, so you always ask that question. So she'll give it to the department, but she won't give it to the community.
There will be many reports on body worn that will be public reports. Her information will be part of those public reports.
All those public reports. Okay. So we don't actually get to meet Ms. Joan Brody, who is receiving $20,000 as a consultant to oversee these body-worn videos. We won't get to meet her, but we will get to see her report. It's nothing like actually seeing the person and hearing from the person as opposed to, reading one of her reports.
And we have 3 comment cards for 1E. We have Mr. Herman, Hamid Khan, and Jamie Garcia. And this is relative to a donation of the use of 8 traditional billboards and 2 digital billboards to promote the department's terrorism reporting application, iWatch LA, valued at $75,000. Mr. Herman? Hamid Khan?
Walk up there, can anybody who identifies as black please stand up in the audience?
Can everyone have a seat, please?
So today, they are going to be approving a hate message.
Everyone needs to have a seat.
A message which is about see something, say something.
Excuse me, everyone has to have a seat because there may be people behind you that cannot see, so that the rules are everyone has to have a seat. Sir, everyone needs to have a seat. If you do not have a seat, then you're going to be asked to leave. So please have a seat.
Well, at least we know who all is in the house. So let's talk about it. You interrupted my time. Can I get my time started?
I
again?
stopped your time, sir.
This is the architecture of surveillance. That man over there, Mike Downing, runs that. He's sitting right there in the second to the right, over there in the second row. iWatch is a counterterrorism program. It's listed right here. In January of 2015, Bustamante released an audit of this counterterrorism program. What it showed was that out of the 215 counterterrorism reports, 81% came through this iWatch program by people who are snitching in the community. Remember that number. Out of these figures, these numbers that went into secret files, out of 109, 33 were identified as black individuals. That's 30% of black individuals in this count are considered potential terrorists. A city that has 9.6% black population, it's a 3-to-1 impact in these counterterrorism programs that these files were opened as a result of the iWatch program that they now want to put 8 billboards in the city. How many black women in the audience? Quite a few. Out of the 12 where they had a gender count, 6 were identified as black women. So 50% of these secret files that were opened identified black women as potential terrorists. This is what this program is doing. 3-to-1 disparate impact, disproportionately impacting the black community. And today, they're going to vote on allowing Clear Channel to donate to the Los Angeles Police Foundation to install billboards around the city which will say, I watch, see something, say something. Wow. And this is what happened with Trayvon Martin. When you see something, say something, and then do something. The first things that Zimmerman said, someone suspicious in our neighborhood. That was
Thank you for your comments.
and do
Next
something,
speaker,
end up
please.
in the loss of a young man.
Jamie Garcia.
This is the body that is giving a license to kill. This is the body that is giving.
Your time is up, sir. Please have a seat.
So just to reiterate and repeat, and we are the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, so our job here is to uplift the massive architecture of surveillance that LAPD is creating and is changing the nature of policing. So this donation from Clear Channel of $75,000 for billboard signs advertising the iWatch See Something, Say Something program should absolutely be rejected. The iWatch program is a companion program of the Special Order 17, also known as the Suspicious Activity Reporting Initiative. This counterterrorism program opens up secret files on people engaged in benign everyday behaviors. These files are secret because you are not informed if a file is opened on you, and you cannot request the file through a Public Records Request or Freedom of Information Act. More importantly, this program creates a culture of fear and suspicion in our community by encouraging neighbors to snitch on each other. See something, say something. In 2013 to 2014, 81% of these reports were generated by community members. So you're actually promoting racial profiling in the community. The race data of these reports show that 30% of the SARs were opened up on the black community, which makes up a mere 9% of LA City's population, and the gender account, as stated before, 50% of the SARs were opened on black women. Our skylines do not need hateful rhetoric. That money should be spent on resources that this local community needs. And it's not funny. The both of you should actually be paying attention right now because you know how large this architecture of surveillance is. It's not funny, Kathleen Kim. You should be paying attention right now. You know that what the iWatch See Something, Say Something program is doing. You know that it hasn't stopped any mass shooting. You know that it's not functional. You know it's a waste of resources. You're on that council about homeless people. You should know and should be advocating for money that's going towards the homeless population, not sitting there and smiling while we're telling you we don't want these hateful messages in our community.
Mr. Herman?
Mr. Herman, are you taking your time, or are you waiving your comment on this item?
I'm trying to move my device here so that no one trips.
You were called in the very beginning. You should have lined up against the wall.
cards so people can't fill them out. 'cause they're
Right here, man. I'll be back in just a second.
My Lord, forgive me. But as you may know, regarding the surveillance, Batman has his own surveillance. And that surveillance is what we hear and see in the community. The whole issue here is not about whether Ms. Kim is paying attention to the actual advice from the public, but it's the recommendation and suggestion that this program you have in your process, as I call it, a tool, is ineffective. So I can't dialogue any more than that. The first speaker basically said the truth. Second speaker identified the facts of the truth. So, Mr. Chair, I wave my time back to you, and don't be so in a hurry. Batman's back.
Do we have any comments on
We have
item
one
1F?
comment card on F. We have Mr. Herman. This is relative to the destruction of obsolete original records.
What item, sir?
We are on item 1F.
1F. Okay. I just want to make sure we're on topic. Stay on topic. Stay on topic. Absolutely. Item 1F. For the department's report, the destruction of obsolete original records. Now, we know what happens to records, don't we? Microchips, thumb drives. People come into your homes, they steal them, they look in the information. Something similar to the TMU, or as I call it, Threat Management Unit. They investigate situations that whose business is it of obsolete original records. See, Mr. Matthews, I'm on topic. Because employment resources approve the departments by the clerk is to recommend that we destroy obsolete records. But to anyone in the public, I think we should hold these obsolete records so that any one of us can review maybe a document or a file to ensure that there is no contamination destroying public information. After all, are we not entitled to transparency?
Okay, we have no other comment cards on
Okay.
consent.
Hold
agenda.
on,
Approval of
hold on,
item,
hold on, hold on.
I'm sorry.
So can we have a motion on items 1A, B, C, D, and F?
Move to approve 1A, B, C, D, and F.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Just separate.
Can I have a motion to approve item 1E? Rob,
Move approval of item 1E.
do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Abstention. So we have one abstention and 3 moving approval.
One nay.
You cannot abstain.
Yeah, one nay.
So 1 no and 3 approvals.
Thank you. We're now on item number 2, report of the Chief of Police, Chief Beck.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Entire Los Angeles Police Department mourns the loss of 3 brave police officers in Baton Rouge. They were senselessly taken. I think it points out the dangers of polarized rhetoric that affects the weak-minded. I also want to talk a little bit about what the department has done in response to this out of an abundance of caution because of the effect that the national conversation is having on folks that are either evil in intent or weak in their minds. We've increased our air support operations in order to add additional cover to police officers responding to calls for service. We've repurposed the 500 officers in Metropolitan Division and moved them away from their crime suppression task into a force protection task so that they can make sure that our officers are safe as they go about their day-to-day operations. We've increased our staffing at communication divisions so they can screen calls to ensure that the calls that we get are legitimate and not intended to lure police officers into situations of danger. We have limited the amount of one-person vehicles that we deploy for response. As you know, the Los Angeles Police Department excuse me, does not commonly deploy one-person cars, but in the instances where we do, we've limited that. And then we put the vast majority of the Los Angeles Police Department in uniform, not only as a state of preparedness, but also as a symbol of support for our brothers in blue and sisters in blue throughout the nation. It's a sad time in law enforcement when brave men and women are targeted merely for the profession that they choose and the manner in which they conduct their business, which is honorable. A couple of incidents I want to talk about that occurred over the past week. I'm not going to give my usual crime report because the mayor and I are doing a 6-month crime update on Friday, and I think that will suffice. This past Wednesday, I traveled with the mayor to Washington, D.C. and took part in the President's Community Policing and Criminal Justice Summit. It was attended by about 40 varied members who all got a chance to speak and listen to each other respectfully. There were political leaders, including the mayor of Los Angeles, as I just stated, the governor of Louisiana, who you have seen on the media since the shooting in Baton Rouge, including his police chief in Baton Rouge. The mayor of St. Paul was there. We had activists from not only from the Advancement Project, but from Black Lives Matter, the national chapters. We had protesters that had participated in not only the Minneapolis protests, but also the Baton Rouge protests. We had a number of police chiefs, including myself. We had a number of religious leaders, including Reverend Al Sharpton. We also had members from the President's 21st Century Summit, 21st Century Investigative Body on Community Policing. And we had about 4 hours of discussion with the President of the United States. Everybody was respectful. Everybody listened to others' point of view. Everybody took something away from it. I thought it was an excellent example of the fact that people can talk about this topic, that people don't have to be disrespectful in the way that they deal with the other stakeholders involved, that people can listen to other folks' ideas and take away something from it. I wish Los Angeles would learn that lesson.
If you have a comment, you can submit a card. If you call out, you're if you are calling out, you're disrupting, and you will be asked to leave. Sir, you're disrupting the meeting. That's your first warning in the green hat.
Sunday we had a peace summit in South Los Angeles. It was attended by members of the Church of Scientology, members of the nation.
Okay, that's your warning. You.
It was attended by members of the Church of Scientology, members of the Nation of Islam, including Tony Mohammed. Danny Bakewell was there. Big Boy, an entertainment individual, was there. Snoop Dogg was there. Game was there. Trouble was there. As was members of the Mayor's Grid Office and over 1,000 members of street gangs in the city of Los Angeles. We talked about violence.
This is your final warning, sir. If you speak out again, you're going to be asked to leave. Sorry, Chief.
So, the message there was to stop violence. The message there was that our communities, particularly some of our communities, are far too violent. And that if we cannot show that we value our own lives, then how do we expect others to value our lives? This is based upon what's happened over the last several years in the city of Los Angeles. One of the statistics that we used in the discussion here is that last year in 2015 there were over 1,100 people shot in the city of Los Angeles. Over 1,000 of those 1,100 were either black or brown young men, shot by other black or brown young men. So, the message from all of these leaders.
Okay, you were warned, so now you need to leave the room. No, you only get one warning. You need to leave the room. Ms. Richards, you need to leave. You need to leave. You have one warning, and the second time you're asked to leave. Ms. Richards, you need to leave the room.
I'll leave. Fuck you, Matt Johnson, and fuck you, Charlie Beck. I'll go back to the encampment down the street.
So this was a significant step in improving not only the relationships within between the Los Angeles Police Department and large portions of the African American community, but also at stopping the violence that plagues our community. You know, this is the true tragedy of Los Angeles is that we lose far too many young people, unfortunately primarily of color, to gang violence, and this is a great step forward in reducing that. You know, we have struggled with getting the message out because as our generations progress, they become further apart, and so these are folks that can directly address the individuals involved. So, very, very positive outcome. I look forward to continuing this dialogue and helping these folks to get their message out. And it is their message. It's not my message. It's the same message that I often put out. But this is the message they came to me with. This is not what I told them to say. And I think that's part of the power of it. The mayor also attended. You know, he and I both believe in this coalition, and we think it's going to make a difference in Los Angeles. And I look forward to reporting that this has had an impact on community violence, and we are closely watching that to make sure that it does.
Chief, just to talk a little bit more about the statistics, because I don't think we can overstate the importance of what this can possibly mean in terms of lives lost in our city last year. So you mentioned 1,100, over 1,000 people of color shot last year. I believe we had 287 homicides last year.
83, but who's counting?
283. And 60% of those were gang-related?
60% gang-related. 42% of the victims were African-American. 45% of the victims were Hispanic.
So, again, just to go back to the statistics, African-Americans are 9% of the population of the city at 42% of the gang homicides.
Well, there are 42% of the homicides, and 60% of those homicides are gang-related. And in the African American community, it skews even heavier towards gang-related.
50% actually, right?
That's right, at 59%.
About 50%.
Yeah, it's.
Why don't you guys talk about what's really going on in this community?
We are, and that is your first warning. If you continue to speak out, you're going to be asked to leave as well.
So the numbers, and the numbers have been consistent over the years. You know, they vary by a point or two, but in last year, my recollection is, and I don't have the charts in front of me, but it was 42% African American, and in gang, as far as gang related, about 59%.
So about 60%.
It's right at 60%, and that is very consistent. The city of Los Angeles has been for the past 5 years.
So in terms of saving lives, this can have a very significant impact.
Huge impact. I mean, the reality is that is the number one cause of death in a large portion of our population, and that just shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be. You know, it can't be.
Okay, sir. I've given you multiple warnings. It is now time for you to leave. Yes, you in the green hat. You know exactly who I'm talking to. You need to leave. Sir, it is time for, you need to leave the meeting.
Green alley hat.
Would you answer that?
You have to leave in a timely manner.
Would you answer my question? Am I going to be arrested?
You could be, you could be. And we hope that won't happen.
The alternative is I can clear the room and we can continue this meeting without an audience.
You know, okay, look. When the Bloods and the Crips were having the war, they called the peace treaty. And the LAPD disrupted all the peace gatherings of the gangs. Yes, that's a fact. That's a fact. The police want gangs to, in fact, they encourage it.
Nobody in the community wants to be a policeman no more.
I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, we're calling the meeting back to order. You're disrupting the meeting. Ma'am, you're disrupting the meeting. That is your first warning. If you continue speaking, I'm going to ask you to leave as well. Okay, ma'am, now you have to leave the meeting. Ma'am, I'm asking you to leave the meeting. Ma'am, I'm asking you to leave the meeting. You continued speaking after I gave you multiple warnings. Ma'am? Ma'am?
Been to 100 of these meetings.
Ma'am, would you please leave the room so we can continue the meeting?
Okay, they're gonna have to arrest me. Or don't do it. No, because I have a right to be here. And it's gonna be all over every media, all over the world. Okay, I'm innocent. And they're trying to quell public dissent because they're lying on innocent people. They're filing suspicious activity reports. But boycott Walmart. This morning I went in there and they called the security on me and accused me of things I did not do. And you people are behind this. I know it. You're pawns. And this is the Illuminati that are racist, that are continuing the genocide of our people. And you will not quiet this because you are evil. You are evil. And you know it. You're going to hell. So help me God in Jesus' name. And you will not stop this movement. Put it all over public media. You don't leave on your own. You're going to be placed. No, you will arrest me right now. It will be all over. It will be all over.
Okay, can everyone have a seat, please? And we're going to continue the meeting.
So, Commissioner, any other questions about the numbers?
No, thank you.
Very quickly, our deployment, we have 9,889 sworn personnel on payroll, 37 recruits in the academy who are not yet on payroll, so that pushes us over a little bit over 9,900. 2,707 civilian personnel with 570 civilian vacancies. We have about 400 reserves, 284 specialist volunteers, 60 chaplains, and just shy of 8,000 cadets in the program. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, sir, we have 15 cards. The first three speakers, Prentice Jenkins, the Red Chief, and Paula Miner.
Prentice Jenkins, published the City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. The incidents.
Can we have quiet in the room, please, so the speaker can be heard?
The incidents that occurred where now it's 9 innocent cops were killed by psycho, crazy fools, was a symptom of what has been going on in the community, because innocent people have been killed by psycho, crazy cops. And for every action, there's a reaction. That's probably Einstein. I'm not sure. But it's true. For every action, there's a reaction. Here's an action. See this man right here? This man is Detective Mott. He's giving a Nazi salute. He is a detective, or he was, in the Louisiana Police Department. He hid amongst the ranks of the police department. A Klansman hid amongst the ranks of the police department. There he is, giving a salute. He refused to resign. He said he had a right to do that. All right? This man said he had a right to be a Klansman, right? So these are the people that are hiding amongst your ranks. See that man right there? You wonder why this psycho killed cops. He was probably looking for this fool and killed innocent cops, because these people hide amongst your ranks. Ku Klux Klansmen, pervert cops, pedophile cops, a rapist cops. You got them in the county jail today. So you cannot say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Their pedophile cop is in the county jail today, Skippy Etra. Molested those 2 little 10-year-old girls. LAPD officer Skippy Etra. Also the rapist cops that raped those black women, they're in the county jail. So when I make a claim, I can back it up. Every time I'll back my claims up. That these people hide amongst your ranks. And there are 1 million cops in this country, and there are thousands of these people hiding amongst your ranks. They're in the LAPD, they're in Chief Charlie Beck's ranks too. They exist in your ranks. And we know they're there. And they stop motorists, tell them to get out their ID. When they reach for the ID, they shoot them in the chest. Huh? That's what this dude would have done. So whatever you do, don't believe that these people don't exist, because they do. And if this man exists, the black cops better watch out.
The Red Chief Hunt.
The Red Chief Hunt. I'm going to read a little something to you. The rules of decorum should not be used to silence people, but to engage in lawful activity. Let me tell you something, Matt. I'm going to give you the points of authority, which we won in a federal court. Can you please hand those to Matt, or give those to Matt? Matt, your bar is going to make you look just like this right here. You see this guy right here? I retired his ass. You know why? He was the president of the police commission. He just thought he could arrest me just for doing what I do. And you white folks made the rules. You know, I was just abiding. Freedom of speech. Fuck white niggers too. It's niggers in all different races. You know, and two meaning also. But here's what I'm saying to you. Matt, at this point, the statistics show that you should be stepping down. Chief Charlie Beck, the statistics show that you should be stepping down. You had a good 10 years. You're not what you used to be. I don't know what it is. When you came out the mayor's house, you are not what you used to be. If you go back and look at your statement, when you came out of Viragosa's house, it doesn't add up to what's going on now. Johnson, statistically show you have not provided no statistics for the African American community. I mean, not one statistic for us. That's a goddamn shame. I counted on you. I put my whole heart in you. But look at your bar record in the next 6 months. That's not funny. That ain't gonna be funny. And trust me on this. The points of authority are coming to you how decorum should be ran. And it's not to silence people.
Paula Miner. followed by Mr. Herman and Oscar.
Paula Miner, Black Lives Matter. We continue to try to come to the commission and speak on some issues that are very serious. I am responding to the chief's remarks and significant events that happened this past week. We are aware that, Chief Beck, that you did go to D.C. We heard some of the sound bites that you made on TV. A couple of them were very interesting. I know that you remarked to the public that things were going very well in LA regarding race relations, police issues, community policing, except for the disapproval of a handful of people. We are considered the handful of people. These are your exact words. However, you know that we are growing to be more than a handful, more than 2 handfuls. You know, last week there were over 800 people trying to get into this particular meeting. The only reason that you see the few of us is because this meeting is not accessible to the public. This meeting occurs early in the morning downtown LA, where people who are working or in school cannot make it, where there's no parking, and we're in a foreign territory. That particular territory is to be surrounded by 30 or 40 police officers as you try to make your comments. So in addition to that, I know that you mentioned over and over again in the sound bites that you wanted to have a dialogue. So I said, well, you know, I don't know everything. Let me look up what the definition of dialogue is. And dialogue means a conversation between 2 or more people. When we come to commission, we're speaking as one person. Most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, the commissioners don't even look at us. They laugh, they're on their phones, they're taking notes, they're doing whatever they think is more important than hearing from the community. So I say this commission should be abolished.
Mr. Herman?
Brandenburg versus Ohio, 1969. Prosecutor Hugo Rossiter, the TRO man, the TMU man, who, as you heard, Michael Hunt's allegations for calling Mitchell Farrell a bitch was dismissed. As you all heard in the news, Wayne Spindler, the Encino from where? Los Angeles, $775,000 lawsuit against you for accusations falsely, Mr. Hugo. You, Mr. Hugo, representing the city of Los Angeles, AKA DBA Business, a fake business, $300 an hour. These are facts. Here we have a prosecutor going into the courts, bringing temporary restraining orders and putting them on us as 5150, trying to slush fund us out of our personal savings. And let me read you for the record, advocating a crime of sabotage, unusual methods of tools, no, means of accomplishing political reform and the interest of political gain. Your gain. You, Mr. Sobroff, where are you? You weren't here last week. Where are you? That's the problem. You should be fired. You should resign. You should stop showing interest in development and respect and participate with community activities, not engage in political reform of your own kind. My kind, Batman wants the world to know. Prosecutor Hugo Rossiter, R-O-S-S-I-T-T-E-R. You're a fool.
I'm here representing the Los Angeles Brown Berets and in support of Black Lives Matter. I am completely in support of their call to have Charlie Beck fired. It has now been almost 5 months since Waukesha Wilson died in LAPD custody, and Charlie is still withholding evidence of what happened to her. In Fresno, police recently killed a 19-year-old boy, and their body cam footage was released in 3 weeks. The fact that this body of government is okay with withholding evidence of a supposed in-custody suicide for 5 months shows us that the death of black citizens is not a priority to the LAPD. We have no trust in Charlie Beck bringing us justice in cases of police brutality. We saw that very clearly a year ago when this commission found the Zell Ford shooting out of policy. When asked by KPCC if he had a deadline for disciplining these officers, Charlie answered, "By state law, I cannot make public whether or not I discipline these officers and what that discipline was." That is not police accountability. We need Charlie Beck fired, and we will succeed. Because of his actions and the history of LAPD, we refuse to believe these narratives given by your officers. We refuse to believe Riddell Jones attacked officers. We refuse to believe that Ezell Ford reached for the officer's gun. We refuse to believe that Brother Africa deserved to die. We refuse to believe that Waukesha Wilson committed suicide in that cell. And overall, we refuse to believe that you can bring us justice in cases of police brutality.
The next speaker, Ted Hayes, followed by Nia Miner, Jasmine Abdullah, Melina Abdullah. Mr. Hayes.
Chief, the statistic that you did not cite was how many open cases are there on these homicides? You can only cite that they're gang-related if the people have reported that somehow they're gang-related. How many open cases? How many people brought to trial, convicted, imprisoned for these crimes? We need to know what the LAPD response is, not what's going on, but how the police department is responding to that. I would suggest that we need to know whether or not these perpetrators are black because they were identified as black by the people in the community. The community has responded to these things, take my word for it, and they are quite willing to come forward even under the threat that there might be gang retaliation if they speak out. You know that. So what has the LAPD done to suppress gang warfare in our community? What are their activities? Those are the kind of remarks and reports you'll be making, not the horrible statistics. We're well aware of those, and we're trying to respond. That's why that summit took place. But we get no response from the LAPD. They're a gang task force within the department, we know that. But how successful are they? Have they made anything different from the time they were not there available until now? That's what we need to know. How many open cases, how many people brought to trial, how many convictions, how many people behind bars? Is it recidivistic? Are they going to jail and coming out? Those are the kind of things we need to know, not those statistics you cited to paint the community as being under gang warfare.
Nia Miner.
Nia Miner, Black Lives Matter. By those statistics that you stated, your job is done. You can step down, and we can fold this commission and the LAPD. We can take that money, 54% of the city budget, and put it into the community where we know it will do good. Understand that when you are fired, Beck, and I say when because it's only a matter of time, when you are fired, this flawed department will probably try to replace you with another incompetent and complacent officer blinded by the badge. We're not going to let that happen. This commission will most likely try to continue and will be bullied by LAPD and the police union too, afraid to act with any moral conscience or integrity, and we won't let that happen either. The community will work harder to completely dismantle your force and systems of state-sanctioned violence. Since neither the commission nor mayor will hold you accountable or your officers, we will. Why should you be fired? We, the community, are making democratic ideas a reality. You have 6 years of blood on your hands. Well over 100 people have been killed under your watch. And the fact that you continue to think that this is business as usual shows your inhumanity. You continue to protect murderous police. And in this insanity, you act as if their rights supersede the Constitution and our right to live. You protect one community and kill another. You accept honors and donations from one community and brutalize another. I stand as a member of Black Lives Matter to reject you, this commission, and LAPD. And speaking for myself, I have no respect for the badge or your twisted codes of ethics or law and order. I am more concerned with lives, with Black lives.
Melina Abdullah. Melina Abdullah. Melina Abdullah. Followed by Michael Williams. And Jody Armour.
So I was in the back texting Patrice Cullors, who you tried to throw in our face as if she wanted to sit down and talk with you, as if Black Lives Matter National is somehow separate from Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. I hope that your investigatory work is better than this as a police officer. Because if you investigated anything, you would know that Black Lives Matter began right here in Los Angeles. Black Lives Matter Los Angeles is Black Lives Matter. We are the first chapter. Patrice Cullors is a member of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. So she wants to vigorously oppose what it is you said. We want to also note that Erica Garner and other organizers who were brought to DC were brought under false pretenses, and she's voiced her outrage. Erica Garner, the daughter of Eric Garner, is on record as saying how she feels manipulated by the supposed town hall that was to take place. Let me say that we are all outraged. Black Lives Matter nationally, and every single one of our more than 40 chapters are outraged by you. Because you lead, or supposedly lead, you head, as a mob boss heads, the most murderous police force in the entire nation. And you sit there, and what just came out of your mouth is a manipulation that's being carried out by you and the mayor trying to divide the Black community. What came out your mouth is that if Black people do not respect ourselves, we cannot expect respect from you. Let me tell you something. You are hired to respect us. You are hired to respect us, and you don't. And that's why we're saying that you need to be fired. There are hundreds and thousands of folks who are joining this movement that says, fire Charlie Beck. Call 213-978-0600 and tell the mayor to get rid of him. Fire Beck.
Michael Williams. Jody Armour.
This is indeed a time to think about Black and blue pain and suffering. There's this jarring juxtaposition before us: Alton Sterling, Philander, and Castile on the one hand, the officers in Dallas and Baton Rouge on the other. We should lower the flag at half-mast and have orators come in, as the president did, to mourn blue lives that are lost. The problem is we don't fly the flag at half-mast when Black lives are lost at the hands of state actors, at the hands of people who act on behalf of all of us. When you say, Chief, and this is in the spirit of continuing sharper dialogue, clearer dialogue, how can we expect others to value our lives if we don't value our own lives? That's really a canard, a red herring, and an attempt to change the subject. What we're talking about when it comes to police brutality is someone who's taken an oath of office, given a badge and a gun, a monopoly of legitimate violence. They act under color of law in the name of all of us. You can't say that about a gangbanger. Doesn't take an oath of office, isn't given a monopoly on legitimate violence, doesn't act on the behalf of all of us. All right, and it's really important for us to keep those two very separate, because what Black folk have been suffering from for now centuries in this country is state violence. And so I've been a big supporter of LAPD. I've been one of those who's gotten on and said, we've come so far since 2099, that consent decree. Because, you know, that Rampart consent decree, Rafael Perez, you were looking at, if you take Serpico Training Day and LA Confidential, and you roll them all together, you still don't have Rampart, right? It wasn't just a few bad apples. It was like the sheriff's department is now. We've come a long way, but that doesn't mean we rest on our laurels. We have so far to go, and that's what folks are saying. We still have so far to go, so I'll just stop there.
Thank you for your comments.
Nice try, City Council, to try to not get me to speak. You guys had falsely said that I was not allowed back in the meeting, that I was kicked out of the meeting, and so you delayed me. You delayed me at the door when I was trying to get back in. So good try, nice try to try to stop me from talking. Thank you. Chief Beck, do you understand that 567 people were killed by police in the country this year, and we're only almost halfway through? So you're talking about police are in danger, but as me as a black person, I never signed up to be in danger. I never signed up to be pulled over by the police and and have the threat of me being killed. I never took that oath. I never signed a paper to say that when I became black. You could take that uniform off. I can't take off my skin. So you're over here talking about black on black crime and all this other stuff. That just proves our point that you're useless. That your department is useless. That your person does not stop crime or prevent crime or stop killings. You only perpetuate the violence. You add 576 people to that list on your own, but you don't prevent any of them from being on the list. So you're just, by putting up those stats, you just dug your own doggone grave, because you're just proving how ineffective you are, how antiquated this system is. So thank you for bringing that up, because we already got stuff on you. We're already calling for you to be fired. And by keeping talking about this stuff, you're just proving more and more again why police need to be abolished, they need to be gone, and something else needs to be replacing them, so that we can actually have an effective system that actually does protect people, that does keep people safe from criminals and other people that are trying to harm us. And we need a protection from the police, because obviously you're not doing your job, and you're killing more people than ever.
And the next four speakers, Linda J., Elzira, Hamid Khan, and Jillian Russum.
I'm just looking at all these signs around here about to protect and to serve, and about respect for the people. Is that what you guys are really supposed to be doing? Is protecting and serving us? Because all I see is you trying to protect and serve my black ass. That's what's going on, and I'm really disappointed with you, Chief Beck. I'm disappointed with looking at this whole commission. Nobody black on here. And they say he's black right there, but I don't see it because I don't hear it from his voice. All I know is that people of my age, 60 and over, the community has changed so much. We used to have honor for the police. We used to have a lot of respect for the police, and our kids wanted to be policemen. But now, you got black women hate the police now. They really hate it, and it's just so sad that I had to talk to my 39-year-old daughter last week when they killed this guy behind some stupid. We tried to figure out, tell my grandson, should you run from the police? I told him run. I mean, I don't know what to tell my grandson now, because you guys are upholding everything the police do, and the blood is gonna be on your hand, because it's gonna get worse. I hate to see policemen die. I'm looking at this side over here, all these people, they minorities looking. I can deal with looking at people that look like me, but when I look over that side over there, I feel like I'm scared. I'm gonna run from them if I see them. Over there, make me think like skinheads. That's what I think, because you guys sending them all into our community and scaring us and killing us, and I'm watching it on TV. All I want you guys to do, now you need to hold a press conference and tell us what to do, tell us what you want to do, and tell your policemen to respect us and not kill us just because we don't hold our hands up long enough. If you pull me over the side, I hold my hands up. If I drop my hands, I'm scared. So please do something, take the initiative to do something new. Get on the TV and tell black community that you're not gonna kill us, and what you're telling your cops in the morning not to do. Give us some respect, like you said, to protect and to serve us. Thank you.
Okay, we're speaking on donations. You know, I remember quite a few of you cops that used to call my house for donations for gang prevention. You know something, I've been in the neighborhood where it's 5 different gangs. And I want you to know, you guys are the biggest gangs ever. I would never be scared of the ones in my neighborhood as much as I am scared of the ones that I have paid for. You guys, if you cannot respect us as a people, you do not look at us as a people, get off the force.
Hamid Khan.
Charlie Beck opened his comments by reclaiming his white supremacist status, basically saying that black and brown people are useless, they're uncivil, they're violent, and they're killing each other.
Right.
Nowhere did Charlie Beck acknowledge that his department sucks up all the resources in the city. When you look at the investments in our community, and I was sitting next to Jamie Garcia and looking up because she's also a healthcare provider. In the city of Los Angeles, there's a there's a cop for every 364 residents. Think about it. One doctor, one cop for 364 residents. There are parts of the city right here in this town that there's only one doctor for 27,868 people. One cop for 364 people, one doctor for 27,868 people. This is a department that takes 54% of the city's general funds. This is a department that out of $100 million that go to homeless services, 87 million goes to LAPD. This is a department that sucks up all the resources. This is a department that doesn't want to acknowledge and speak about the violence of poverty, the violence of how people are treated, the violence of racism, and the violence of white supremacy. So of course, as an agent of white supremacy, he's going to start like that. He's going to blame the victim. He's going to say they're uncivil. He's going to say they are violent. He's going to say black on black crime. Nowhere is he acknowledging that in 2011, LAPD killed 62 people, officer-involved shooting. In 2012, 37 officer-involved shooting. In 2013, 46 officer-involved shooting. In 2014, 30. In 2015, 48. In 2011, LAPD killed the most people of any police department in the country. In 2015, LAPD again killed the most people of any police department in the country. In 2016, again, LAPD is leading the nation in killing the most people. Nowhere in his speech is he going to talk about it because he is a white supremacist and he's an agent of white supremacy, and that's the game that we have to play. That's why we have to dismantle this fucking system.
Jillian Wilson. Okay, Jillian Russom. Okay.
Hi, my name is Jillian. I'm a public school teacher here in solidarity and support of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles and the demand to fire Chief Beck. I feel like we can't go on and on about prosecuting gang crime when we let police crime off the hook repeatedly. I think that the call for dialogue is happening because Black Lives Matter has courageously raised these issues and demanded a conversation for years now, and that has not been responded to with action. Dialogue without action that substantially shows a commitment to change is worthless. We need to start, as people have said, with those who are using violence on behalf of the state and on behalf of supposedly we as the people. As it's been said under Chief Beck, this has been the most violent and murderous police department in the nation. Not only the statistics that have been stated, but a third of people with a history of mental illness being those targeted by the LAPD. And of course, we continue to uphold the name of Riddell Jones, Waukesha Wilson, Ezell Ford, and those for whom there has been no flag at half-mast. There has been no nationwide dialogue. Lastly, and so I feel if we want a less violent Los Angeles, we gotta start here. We have to start with the people that commit violence in the name of the state, in the name of the people. And firing Chief Beck is a necessary signal that we are committed to substantial change. We also need a substantial revolution of priorities. When we spend $1 billion on this police department, but students in Los Angeles are facing classrooms of 45, 47, 52 students trying to learn chemistry without a desk. This is the kind of stuff that has to change if we want a less violent society.
And we have no other comment cards on this item. We're now on item number 3, regular agenda items.
Would any of my fellow...
What is your name?
You can have 2 minutes. Please come up to the podium.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This message is directed to the whole police commission. 3 years ago, I came, for the record, as the great I am, Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, with all power and all world power and authority over you. I am your judge. So I came with the prophetic message. Read your Bible, not your satanic Bible. This is for the record. You have 7 days, a command from God. I'm going after the head of the serpent, which is LA Mayor Eric Garcetti, because I'm taking his spot. And Chief Beck, you will be fired by my authority. And every police officer, every corruption of the serpent seed, because I'm the woman that crushes the head of the serpent seed, as the voice of the archangel, the 7th trumpet call of God. This is your last chance, final hour, and final word. You got 7 days, because God sent me here today as your messenger, 21 days from now, to the community, to the newspaper people, to the news media. Don't shut me off the cameras, for I am the authority of Los Angeles, California, and I stand for the authority and power over you. You have 21 days to get it together. I want all those people that I named on my list fired. If not, I'll take it by force, because the true church suffered violence. And you have mistreated the community, we the people. You are corrupt, and I will take you down. I'm God all by myself. So this city is in a state of emergency. As of today, May Day, obey. Do not be foolish and prideful, because look what happened when I told you not to elect Chief Beck. This nation went under turmoil. War in every city. Ferguson, murders. Get it together, or I'll shut it down.
Okay, thank you
tear
for
it
your
down,
comments.
break it down. I am the authority over you. I came by divine appointment. Thank you very much.
Would any of my fellow commissioners like a report on item 3A?
I don't need
No. Okay, do I have a motion to, do we have any comments on this item?
Yes, we do. We have 4 cards.
Okay, please call the cards, please.
We have Mr. Herman, Prentice Jenkins, the Red Chief, Jaquil Reynolds, and Nancy. 5 cards. This is relative to regular agenda item 3A, Inspector General's report, relative to seatbelt inspection, gang officer arrestee transports. Mr. Herman? He's not here. Oh, there.
Well, Mr. Bustamante, isn't it a very sad day that the Inspector General's report doesn't match the criteria of what events are fulfilling today? The turmoil, the crisis. Now, such callousness or weakness is the undermine of your privilege to represent the public. I'm only one person. The Dark Knight.
Or better, should I talk to you like a little kid? Because kids get their point across very good, because kids pay attention.
Mr. Herman, this item is regarding the seatbelt inspection. Do you have comments on the seatbelt inspection?
Well, my advice is to all the kids, when you buckle up, remember Barney says, I love you, you
That's
love
not
me.
relevant to this item. It's regarding gang officer arrestee transports. Do you have any comments relative to this item?
When you're in your car and you're buckling up, under transportation. You have to remember that it's very dangerous to drive in Los Angeles. We're the hit and run capital of the world. John Walsh, HollywoodHighland.org. And when you come to the city of Los Angeles regarding transportation,
He's off topic, Mr. Herman. You're off topic. Your time is
well, maybe that's
forfeited.
why I'm a
Who's the
little
next
kid.
speaker on
The
this
next
item?
speaker, Mr. Prentice Jenkins.
Prentice Jenkins, published a City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. Relative to seatbelt inspection, I want everyone to know that if, and gang officer arrestee transports, relative to the seatbelt inspection, if an officer asks you for your ID and you're seatbelted, do not reach for your ID, whatever you do, or you may get shot and killed, okay? That happened to Orlando Castillo, who was told to reach for his ID. He was seatbelted, and sure enough, he got shot. Marcus Jeter in Bloomfield, Illinois, was told by cops to reach.
This item is regarding people being transported.
Oh, yeah, for people being transported by gang officer arrestees, whatever you do, right, ask them to transport you in a police car and not a police arrestee transport van. Freddie Gray was transported in a police van. He was banged back and forth, right? Like, he was in a wash machine.
Jenkins, that's not on topic.
What is it?
To this report.
It's seatbelt and inspection, gang officer.
This is relative
arrestee transport.
to the inspection.
To the inspection? Okay, relative to the inspection
You're
of gang officer arrestee transport.
Disrupting, that's your first warning. If you disrupt again, I'm going to ask you to leave.
My time is continuing, sir.
No, it's not, sir.
Yeah, relative to seatbelt inspection of gang officer arrestee transport. The gang officer arrestee transport seat belts should be inspected to ensure that people like Freddie Gray, see, I got it in there, huh? That Freddie Gray is not sloshed around inside that transport van and his spine isn't broken.
The Red Chief Hunt. Jaquil Reynolds.
I would like to start off that I'm a after-school program coordinator, and I'm a lifeguard, so I serve the community. And so while I'm in my community, I usually get stopped. I get stopped probably like out of a 2-week period, at least 3 times. At least 3 times. For what reason? No reason at all. Because you can see today, I got prosecuted. I got told that I was going to get killed. I was getting shot.
I think your comment is more applicable to general public comment.
Well, if you look at my time card, my card that I wrote on, it says what I'm talking about.
That would be item 4. But
Okay, so I'm talking about 4.
What's that?
It says
3A.
Right, but right now we're on item 3A.
Okay, well, what's 3A?
3A is regarding the Inspector General's report on the seatbelt inspection for gang officer transportees.
Oh, gang officer transport?
Yes.
Okay.
So if we can have your card resubmitted for item 4.
All right, can I get it resubmitted?
Yes.
All right, for sure.
So we'll call you again for item 4.
Okay. Then we have Nancy. It says 3 and 4, so just 4?
Okay, so this.
Okay, we'll put you on 4. We have no other comment cards on this item? sir?
Okay, can I have a motion to approve item 3A?
Move approve the item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're now on item number 4, public comment. We have Mr. Herman.
How many public
3,
comments?
4. I'm sorry, I'm not ready. 5. About 20, sir.
Okay.
The first 5, Mr. Herman, Wayne Spindler, the Red Chief, Prentice Jenkins, and Ted Hayes.
So Inspector General, always and over again, What the hell's happening in LA? What's going on with Hugo? Hugo, your double business, one as a developer with interest in buying and purchasing property. On top of that, your $300 an hour fees at City of Los Angeles. I don't know what kind of DBA you do, but Wayne Spindler has it on you, you fool. You see? You didn't put the charges against him, the TRO, or what about the TMU, Mr. Saltzman? See, Batman had one of those on him at one time, a 422 APC. But Mr. Batman is not a fruitcake. Mr. Batman was a Ninth Circuit winner coming up, just like Michael Hunt pointed out. So he bitch slapped Mr. O'Farrell, simply on words. Brandenburg versus Ohio, Whitney versus California, and Dennis the Menace, U.S. So you see, it's just words. Speaking our mind, influencing the public that this is your time to speak out. Exploit corruption, abuse, poor judgment, lawlessness. You see, the kids love Batman. Every time I'm on the shelf, I and the kids at Target always play with Batman. See, because they know there's true justice in the justice system when the FBI and the CIA come in and break up this racketeering of bad policing. The same way, I forgot. What's your name? Can you tell me your name? What's your name again? Mr. Salzberg, what's your name? Lee Baca?
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Please call the next speaker.
The next speaker, Wayne Spindler, not present. The Red Chief Hunt, not present. Prentice Jenkins. Followed by Ted Hayes.
Prentice Jenkins, published a City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. You know, when I started my activism in 1991, we were a very non-violent organization, and we ran into a guy who had a violent organization. And I went over to him and I told him, you know, we don't have to engage in violence. You know, this is you're giving the movement a bad name. And he told me, you don't tell me what to do with my organization. You do what you do and I'll do what I do. So I walked away knowing he's gonna be in jail pretty soon. Sure enough, I ended up in jail, and we were the nonviolent guys, right? It actually happened. So I saw him 5 years later, and I loaded my righteous indignation shotgun with how right I was and how honorable I was. I went over to him, and I was about to give it to him in both barrels. See, we got 1,000 people jobs without violence. And I walked over there to tell him that. And as soon as I did that, he said, I heard you guys got a lot of jobs for all the people in the community. We said, yeah. He said, you're welcome. That's when I realized it took all kinds in a movement. He was right. It took all kinds. Because of what he did, contractors started calling us. So that man was legitimate. Based on what he did, which was violence, which what I abhorred, guess what? We got a lot of people, jobs in the community. Chief Beck, I was a supporter of yours. I find myself over there yelling, fire Chief Beck. I've never said that before. I've never said that before. Trust me, Black Lives Matter is right. Any other chief of police would have been fired. But I don't want you fired. You got the grenade and you pulled the pin. You got to put the pin back in the grenade. You got to do your job. That's what I want to see you do. I want to see you do your job.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
Ted Hayes, followed by Oscar, Jasmine Canick, and Michael Williams.
I provided this information to the Inspector General and also it doesn't matter whether you ask about it or not. Unless you know what to look for, once you get there, it doesn't matter. I mentioned several times that former Sheriff Sherman Block said he never wanted Ted Hayes in his jail. Well, you know, I've been in your jail 5 times, but the jail insists I have never, ever been there. Now, although the chief was citing statistics, there's one statistic that's very important, and it relates to the jail. When you go to jail, you're entitled to make 3 phone calls. I guess everybody knows that because they look at TV and look at movies, and they see I want to make a phone call to my lawyer. Well, the jail doesn't follow the state law, which requires that be posted in the jail, that you have a right to make those 3 phone calls. One particular section is not there. That section says you may make a phone call to an attorney of your choice if you have no funds, blah, blah, blah. This telephone call shall not be monitored, eavesdropped upon, or recorded. Now, that language must be posted. It's not there. Instead, the LAPD has put up a sign saying, we deserve the right to monitor these phone calls and tape record these phone calls. And if you use the phone, you give us the right to do that. So I would suggest that any of you commissioners go to the jail, get Penal Code Section 851.5, have it in your hand, and read the notice that's posted in the jail. Tens of thousands of people have had their due process rights violated because this has not been posted.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Oscar?
Hi, I'm here with the Los Angeles Brown Berets and in support of Black Lives Matter. And I wanted to reaffirm that we are a peaceful movement and we have done everything by peaceful means. And I wanted to give an example of what it's like to be a part of a peaceful movement under Charlie Beck. So on November 2014, 2 days before Thanksgiving, we had a protest for the killing of Mike Brown and also for Ezell Ford. We were out in front of the police headquarters about 10 o'clock. Started marching, and around midnight on 9th and Flower, we were surrounded. It was me and about 30 kids, almost all high school and college age. We were surrounded by over 100 riot police. And we were held there for about an hour. And about an hour after that, a bus came to take us to jail. They told us that we would be processed and released. That was not the case. We were processed, and I was put into a cell with 5 other males. After that, we were taken into another cell at about 4 in the morning. We were put into a cell with 40 other males, and we were told we would be let out in the morning. And the morning came around, we weren't let out. We didn't have any soap for about 12 hours. 40 males in a cell with toilets, with gnats flying around, nasty food, and no soap. After about 5 o'clock, we were told we'd get out at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock comes around, they call our names, we line up, we think we're going home. We get put into shackles and put into vans. We were put into those vans at 9 o'clock, transferred over to the South Central facility, and we were placed in several different cells. And after that, around midnight, we were let out in South Central at midnight. And when I met the city attorney, he said that, you know, it might have been a mistake, something like that. And I told him, what are you going to do about it? He said, that's not my problem. I have them recorded. I have them on tape. And he told me that I couldn't protest for another year, that I was on probation.
Thank you, Oscar.
That I couldn't protest for another year. There's
Jasmine
an internal
Koenig.
affairs investigation going on about that as well.
Jasmine Koenig?
Good morning. I am down here for a second week in a row, which is like a record for me. But I wanted to bring to your attention some things that happened in this room before the meeting started last week that I'm sure you have all seen the video about. And it was of, I don't know if he's your advisor, Chief Beck, or what, but of Najee Ali verbally assaulting and threatening Black women in this room and being aided and abetted by uniform and plainclothes officers to do so. He threatened me, he threatened Dr. Melina Abdullah, he threatened Jasmine Abdullah, and he also taunted the widower of Riddell Jones, Marcus Vaughn. Regardless of how people feel about Black Lives Matter, or even me, we have the right to be respected and not to be threatened when we come into this space. I have seen people kicked out of this room for less. Even today, I've seen people kicked out of this room for less and asked to leave this building And the only thing that happened to Najee Ali is these officers just moved him to the other side of the room to continue his craziness. That is unacceptable. I want to thank all the officers who looked at that video and emailed me and told me who the other officers were that were standing around who didn't do anything, because they do more for people who argue on the street. When you see two people arguing on the street, I've seen officers do more. I don't know who Najee is to you, Chief Beck. He certainly doesn't represent me or my community. And as far as his language, I work for 2 mayors. I work for a senator. If I conducted myself in that way representing those people, I would be fired. So I need to know exactly what is Najee Ali's position with the LAPD, and particularly with your office. I think you owe this community at least to tell us that much, since the man is sitting here claiming that he represents you in this department, and he was verbally threatening and verbally assaulting us. So hopefully you can get that information to us. Thank you.
Michael Williams.
So, first, I want to say that it is more dangerous to be a black man in this country than it is to be a police officer. 10 police officers were killed last year. Out of the 10, 7 of them were killed by white people. This year alone, again, we're only halfway through the year, 116 black people have been killed by the police in this country. So you are more, being black in the United States is more dangerous than being a police officer. Think about that. Now I want to address you fools. Najee Ali's comments last week are indicative of the entire LAPD and police policy and law enforcement's attitudes to those people who have had their family members killed by police, and there's a lot of them. I was at the East Los Angeles, and I've been waiting to say this since then, is I was at the East Los Angeles commission meeting that you had, and I've seen some very disrespectful things by Soberov. I've seen some very disrespectful things from Matt Johnson. I've seen very disrespectful things from all of you on this board towards the families and the people who have lost their loved ones to the police. But I've never seen someone actually be rooting for a soccer game while people are crying and are literally in tears and pain over their families being killed. And that's indicative, like I said, that's indicative of your entire attitude towards these people. You want to have blue lights for folks for police officers who are killed, but you won't even listen or pay attention to those people who had their family members killed by the police. You guys are ridiculous. You guys are not have any power and authority. You guys have no way of changing anything. You guys are just placed here to be a figurehead so that people think that we're having some kind of transparency or control over the police. All you do is approve or disapprove reports. That's it. You don't change anything. You guys are powerless. And the thing about it is that you guys are powerless and apathetic. So you know what? We're tearing this whole system down. And we're starting with Charlie Beck. We're coming after y'all next.
The next 5 speakers, Kai Utsumi, who's not present, Melina Abdullah. Melina Abdullah.
Mr. President, just to clarify the record, there were 42 law enforcement officers killed last year in the United States, not 10.
Thank you.
And there were over 1,000 people killed by the police last year. There were over 1,000 people. What's the number, Hamid? 1,145 people killed by police. And so our lives matter as much as any person who signs up for a particular occupation. Let's remember that being a police officer isn't in the top 15 most dangerous jobs in the country. It's much more dangerous to be a meat packer. So maybe we should think of lights to turn on every time a meat packer loses their life too. Meat packers' lives matter just as much as yours does. So I think it's really important that we understand what happened in this room last week. Last week, what this body proved is that it is an illegitimate body. We have been coming here week after week, every week for years. We have asked, we have cried, we have begged, we have yelled, we have really tried to get to the ethics of this body. We've tried to ask them to be a civilian review board, but instead we have a president in Matt Johnson who apologizes to the most murderous police chief in the country when we speak, when the community dares to speak. So we need to remember that they are all in this together. They are all in this together. Matt Johnson is in bed with Charlie Beck, not literally, but figuratively. He's in bed with Charlie Beck. They're both in bed with the mayor of this city, Eric Garcetti. And we are demanding that there is some accountability. And so we know the only person who has accountability in this whole equation is the mayor of this city. He is up for re-election next year. If he does not fire this police chief, if he does not appoint people who really reflect the interests of the community, then he needs to go. Fire Chief Beck. Fire Chief Beck. Fire Chief Beck. Fire Chief Beck.
Order, please.
Thank you. The next speakers.
Order, please. If I don't have order, I'm going to clear the room. Thank you.
The next speaker, Linda J., Jasmine Abdullah, Jody Armour.
Yes, my name is Linda J. I'm an activist. I just want to reiterate what I was saying earlier. I think it's just appalling that you don't hold your officers accountable for taking our lives. Your life matters to you so much that your officers can just shoot us down and kill us. And then if we do get an indictment, we never get a conviction. The police union is it's horrible. I don't even know why y'all have a police union, because we already know what the outcome is going to be. It's so sad that you guys can sleep at night and allow black people to get killed every day. We have kids. We want our kids to come home just like you want your officer to come home. You understand that? We need you guys to stop killing us, respect us, know that our lives matter. If your life matter, just think about, we have the same pain that you have. We don't want to see policemen die, but we don't want to see our children die either. Not at the hands of policemen that are sworn to protect us. Like I said, you guys got all this protect and serve around, but I don't see nobody protecting us. Come out here and you escalate everything, and every time I'm looking at TV and I'm seeing people talk nicer than the police is supposed to be the person that has to come about them. But now when I see the police, I'm so scared. I've never been this scared before. I'm serious. It's sad that you guys have changed our hearts. I've never been this angry before. Yeah, I'm an angry black woman now, but I've never been this angry before, and I have a reason to be, because our kids are dying at the hands of people that we are paying taxes to. And you guys need to stop this. Stop it now. And do something about the ones that are killing, because you are putting these people's lives in jeopardy when you defend killers. Thank you.
Jody Armour, followed by Pastor Q, Jan Marie, and April Collins. I do have your card here.
There's still cards to go. There's still cards to go.
Distinguished politicians have been talking about how an attack on the police department is an attack on America. And I'm going to adopt that perspective and say, from that perspective, we need to also recognize then that an attack by a police officer on an innocent black life is an attack of America on that innocent black life. That's what makes it different than civilian to civilian crime. Once again, I think it's important for us to get clarity on that distinction so that we don't go down that rabbit hole. I teach at USC at the law school. A couple years ago, we had a black graduation party that was disbanded by 79 riot police. A helicopter came in blocking out the moon. I had a town hall meeting, commission members, other people came, and we had the white students said, we want to speak first. They spoke. They said, we were having a party across the street, just as loud, just as many people. They came to us, told us to turn down the music, but them, the black graduation party, 79 riot police, and helicopters. It was like a controlled experiment, a natural controlled experiment, right? I think that what went on may have been unconscious. That's my concern, that what we're talking about a lot of times is unconscious bias. I don't think they necessarily even meant it that way, but the same kind of unconscious bias we see in the difference in people's reactions to Flint, Michigan, or Katrina, that absence of empathy, sympathy, care, and concern, that absence of a panic of empathy, compare our response to Katrina to our response to 9/11. We just got it done. Katrina, you had Sean Penn 4 days in rolling up with fresh water because FEMA couldn't get its act together, right? Those black lives standing in the 9th Ward with water up to their waist, but there wasn't a panic of empathy. And that's what we're saying. The black people's pain isn't eliciting a panic of empathy from America and Americans. It may be unconscious. I'm not necessarily looking for bad guys, although there are people who have good critiques that I think have a different analysis. I respect their analysis, but I think that, if we just honestly confront it rather than deny it, take an ostrich head in the sand approach to it, we can get a lot further.
Pastor Q.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to address the summit that happened in our community with the game. The game has never been to a police commission meeting, with all due respect. I came from the music industry. I was signed to Virgin Records for 4 years, had a song called Victim of the Ghetto. One of the lines in my music was, they pulled me over, pat me down in front of the record store, but what they checking for? Throwing years at me just because my hair is nappy. That was 1992. We're in 2016. Come on, somebody. President Obama does not live in Los Angeles. He lives in Washington, D.C. Tell President Obama to come to City Hall and see what's going on there. You can't fix somebody else's house until you fix your house. Chief Beck, this is your house. Los Angeles is your house. I'm reminded of a story in the scriptures where widow women were being fed food, and the leadership was Jewish, and the Greeks weren't getting any food. And they addressed the disciples, and the disciples said to them, choose leaders from among you and let them deal with the problem. If you're going to deal with the problem, you're going to have to deal with leaders who are underground from among Black Lives Matter. And by the way, we're going to talk to Minister Tony Muhammad. You're not going to talk to him without us being there. Trust me.
April Collins. Followed by Nancy and Elzira. Is April Collins present? Nancy? April Collins? Nancy.
Chief Beck, I'm Nancy. I'm also a social worker. I heard you mention earlier that you had gone to the White House and had the opportunity, obviously, to speak with the president, and you mentioned all these these African Americans that were there, the game, Snoop, and
They weren't at the White House.
no, they weren't invited. Okay. Well, you were there, obviously representing Los Angeles, and all these people, my colleagues, are here as a result. Well, listening to you and listening to what you had to say, we're wondering what kind of conversation did you have with the president? You know, you are representing Los Angeles. These officers are looking to you. They take directives from you. The culture of what's transpiring and happening in Los Angeles trickles down from you. I've sat here today, and this is really only my second time coming to this meeting, and I've seen quite a bit of apathy, as has already been mentioned, and I think that's sad. There has to be something done about this. Week after week after week, this is what you're going to be faced with unless it's dealt with. Obviously, you should have someone on your staff that can deal with the people and deal with what's happening in Los Angeles. And I agree. There's so much, what's the word I'm looking for? I've been stopped myself, being African American, and I'm very much an educated woman, and I have no criminal background. But you're right. But they're right. There's so many black lives that have been at stake, so many black lives that have been taken, and I personally have been racially profiled because I was on Or I live on a particular side of town really where there's not a lot of African Americans. But there's something going on here. And I feel sorry for a lot of your officers because they're being placed in positions to have to act in areas and do things that they're not really even equipped for. You've got these officers that are supposed to be trying to determine whether someone is mentally ill. They're not qualified to do that. They're not qualified to they're not trained for that. I feel sorry for them. They're being placed in a position to do something that they are not qualified to do.
Thank you for your comments.
The next three speakers, Elzira, Marshawn Johnson, and Jamie Garcia. Is Elzira present?
Okay, I see the clock's running before I got a chance to talk. So really quickly.
Restart the clock, please.
Yes. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, my name
Mr.
is
President, just
Marshawn.
for the public's information, Deputy Chief Bill Scott from Southborough is going to be sitting in for Chief Beck.
Thank you.
Well,
Good morning.
good morning. How are you? I can understand that we are very angry, but at the end of the day, it's time to share some love because we have so much pain in our hearts that we don't even know what's happening anymore. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I do what I'm supposed to do all the time. Everybody on the corner and on the wall doesn't even read or acknowledge or respect anything that's on the wall. I can tell because of the apathy that is being given here. I don't want sympathy. I'm tired of sympathy. I want something to be done. It's time for us to respect each other as a human being and as a person. It's to the point to where we have no respect for one another. It's to the point to where you can't even allow some people to speak just as much as I heard Charlie Beck quote, and he said something about homicide, and he said, who's counting? Bro, I am, because those are my brothers and my sisters that are out there dying. And who's counting? That's the ultimate. They say that if you want to hear a man's heart, listen to his mouth. And, I close my mouth more nowadays, open my ears so I can understand how ridiculous this system is. And it's so sad that my law does not protect us. So at what point can you continue to kick the dog before the dog bites you back? And then you get mad when we talk about we living by a love code, the code of respect. I get hit and beat in the streets from people I don't even know. I don't fight back. But at the end of the day, you can pay for that though. If you want to fight me, we can sign up for this. But I'm not going to fight anyone in the street unlawfully so then I can go to jail. I'm a black man. I'm always at the end of the wrong stick. Every time. I've been slammed on hoods, told where's the burner, where is this, so on and so forth. I'm not a criminal, no sir. I'm not a gang-affiliated person, no sir. But some of my brothers and sisters are. And I hear the fact that some of my women are being disrespected in the streets. I have no respect for that. Any man that disrespects any woman in this world has no respect for their own mother. So would you talk to your mom like that? Honestly. It's to the point to where, as a man, you got to stand up for what you believe in. And everybody on the wall, you're not a victim, but look at this. The cameras go away, and now it's dark. But no one believes in anything that's on the walls no more.
Thank you for your
It's so
comments.
much in your face, we don't believe it. But I love everybody, though. I want to see everybody smile and be happy. At the end of the day, don't be mad anymore. Okay? Hey, I love you.
Marshawn Johnson. Followed by Jamie Garcia. Jamie?
So my comment is in regards to a recent comment that was made by Matt Johnson to the LA Times regarding revisiting the body camera policy to possibly make the footage available to the community. The Stop LAPD Spying Coalition and many other community members will not be fooled by this petty attempt at reform or concessions to the community. No matter if the footage is released, we as a community know that body cameras are just a part of the larger architecture of surveillance. They will collect data on the community to incriminate the community, not bring justice. Never has footage brought justice. Even in your trial runs, no biased policing report was ever sustained in those areas where body cameras were used. This is more money going towards policing, where we are calling for more monies into communities and less money towards policing. $57 million for the first 5 years for this program. Police will be able to manipulate the cameras as well. Let's remember how 90 of 300 antennas from in-car video dash cams were sabotaged by police, where they actually broke the antennas off so we couldn't actually capture the sound. There is no trust with LAPD that they'll use these cameras to actually protect us. This is about city liability. For cops, by cops. That is one of the catchphrases of VIEVU, who makes body cameras. So these are not about protecting the community. So if you want to take steps towards accountability, you want to talk about reform, we at the Stop LAPD Spying are calling for a complete halt to the acquisition of any more surveillance equipment. So if we actually want to start taking moves towards making policing more transparent, let's make the real moves that are necessary. So why don't you stop acquiring any more surveillance equipment, disclose what surveillance equipment you do have, and disclose what impacts the surveillance equipment is having on the community, and then we want the right to sue you if any of our human or civil rights are violated. And so you can look down, all of you, and pretend that I'm not here talking about this, but we are coming after data-driven, evidence-based policing. We know that it's a fraud. We know that it's just another way for you to criminalize these communities. You cannot paint it into another picture to make yourself sound more scientific, more official. We are coming for you.
Thank you for your comments.
The next three speakers, Peggy Lee Kennedy. Peggy Lee Kennedy, followed by Hamid Khan and Jaquil Reynolds.
Oh, because I'm going to speak on it now. Could you give it to him now? Thank you, sir. Hi, Peggy Lee Kennedy, Venice Justice Committee. Whew, this is a heavy place to come. First of all, I want to say that the Venice Justice Committee stands with Black Lives Matters. And we really wish all lives mattered, but I don't think they do. And I'm here to ask you to respond to what I'm putting in front of you right now. Some people living in their vehicles in Venice were terrorized. Their vehicles were vandalized. Their windows were broken, and they were threatened with notes over the 4th of July weekend. And I would ask this commission and the LAPD to follow up on this, because this got reported to us because there wasn't proper follow-up. And I'm asking this commission specifically to instruct the Los Angeles police to act with compassion and to treat the victims of these crimes like any housed person that had property damaged and had been threatened. If they could treat them the same, that would be really good. But that doesn't happen in this city because unhoused people, because this city's response to the unhoused is criminalization and throwing the LAPD at them over and over and over again. It creates a very bad situation, and hate crimes occur. We have people talking about them openly like they're garbage. We have sanitation sweeps that throw their belongings away like it's garbage. Your blanket is life essential. It is not garbage. And it would be really nice if our city could treat unhoused people better.
Hamid Khan.
We'll look into this. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
So Kathleen Kim, I think you're the only one person that maybe is left on this body that one can even speak to directly, because Salzman is leaving, so it's going to be interesting to see how we deal with the knee replacement. I want to lift up where Jamie Garcia left on this, throwing these crumbs to the community, this whole grand statement that was made by Matt Johnson around releasing the footage of the body cameras. I think the question really that we have as a community that, and this is something that Dr. Melina Abdullah earlier stated, the illegitimacy of this body, that increasingly how you are proving yourself to be a shock absorber for the system. There's been a whole set of demands that have been put out that you're speaking about releasing the footage in the future, but the crime that has happened already is not being investigated. I'm speaking about our demands to doing an investigation on the sabotaging of the in-car video cameras. There was no investigation. Chief Beck said this doesn't need an investigation. You as a law professor should know, because lawyers have said that that was a conspiracy to commit a misdemeanor by the officers who committed that act, which is actually a felony. So there are 92 felonies that are waiting to be examined. And you're throwing us these crumbs about a concession that we will release some of the footage. We talked to you, and today you did vote against the iWatch billboards because maybe the gender issue hits you. We talk about the racial profiling that this man in his report, Bustamante, has showed very clearly. What about the investigation of that racial profiling in counterterrorism investigation? But here you are throwing us crumbs again. Because we know that as a policy, we oppose body cameras, but even as a policy, you require officers to review the footage before they even file the report of the body cameras. Talk about that. Talk about manipulation of reporting.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is up.
This is how they mask us. This is how they mask everything, and this is the fraud.
The next card is for Jaquil Reynolds.
One second. I'm not the best at talking over microphones so I write down. All right, so I like to start as I work for the community. I'm also a young black American, African American that lives here in LA, that's in the Metropolitan District. And I just want to say that I get harassed on like a daily basis by police of color and of white people too, and it's crazy. I get a gun pointed on my head every time I get pulled over. It doesn't matter if it's a light that's still on. It doesn't matter if it's a light on my license plate. It doesn't matter if it's a window down that he said that's tinted, but the window's down so he wouldn't be able to see it. It's a lot. It's a lot of reasons that I get pulled over that are not just. And it's crazy how we have to be careful of what we do after he says to grab what he tells us to grab. So after officer tells me to grab my registration, I look back and I get a gun pointed at my head and told not to move or I would get killed. It's quite dangerous out here for a black man. It says that they're here to serve and protect, but it really just seems like they're here to protect themselves. It's really a gang. It's not even police unit, because a police unit is supposed to protect and preserve. Who y'all serving? Yourself. That's it. And it kind of hurts the community also how you guys put these accusations on this black community. And it's not even true. You guys end careers and end lives before you even start. Like, I have a case and I'm innocent. I have a case and I could have lost my job. I could have lost being a lifeguard. I could have lost my to be a teacher, to be a lot. And I'm 21. My life just started. And y'all trying to end it that fast?
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Okay, we have no other comment cards on public comment. We're now on item number 5, closed session items. And we have one comment card on 5A1. We have Sela Flores. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
As pertaining to all the police corruption and police shooting against the community, that's sad. Shame on you. This is why judgment is above this city. The sword of judgment is on this city, because there was a lady last week that they were protesting. She pulled a knife and they shot her dead. There's other means, like belly clubs. The other stuff they use, the police are supposed to use to protect themselves and protect the community. But instead, they're trained to shoot to kill. Is that the way this police department works? Well, this ain't the correct way. So you need to shut everything down. You need to put God into the picture because I'm alive. That's why I said read your Bible, not the satanic Bible, because your time is up. There's no more time left. This city's going to be destroyed in 21 days. That's why I say repent now. This is an order and it is a command. God is not a joke. I do not play. I mean business. Look at all around you. I am the authority. The same way God was with Moses against Pharaoh, you are Pharaoh and I'm Moses. And I'm God all by myself with the community. I back up the people because I don't back up corruption. This is a disgrace to our race because my Bible says all men were created equal. Just because you're in blue doesn't give you a right to shoot and kill people in secret. This is corruption and it is wrong. You know right from wrong. So you better straighten out your act, because if not, I will. This is a command and a law of order. I demand order this day. You have 7 days to repent on your knees, because at the name of Jesus, Christ in human flesh, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess, because I'm your world, universe, true president. Obama is an imposter. He's the first terrorist who has sold California to the China regime. You have military coming after this city.
Thank you for your
You
comments,
have
ma'am.
ISIS terrorists coming to destroy and explode the police department.
We have two
So
cards.
you better listen to what I have to say, 'cause I don't play.
We have two cards on 5A2. We have Mr. Herman and Prentice Jenkins.
Prentice Jenkins, published the City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. We have officer-involved shooting. Party is T. Wolford. I need to know, Mr. President, are in officer-involved shootings, are we talking about people who have been shot or people who have been shot dead?
These are people that have been shot.
Oh, shot, okay. So he may still be alive. Okay, so T. Wolford is what I continue to say is Charlie Beck's hand grenade. You pull the pin from the hand grenade and you hold that lever down. You don't let that lever go, because if you do, it's gonna explode. T. Wolford is Charlie Beck's hand grenade. Officer-involved shootings. Zell Ford, officer-involved shootings. And Chief Beck has that lever holding down on that hand grenade. As long as you keep that hand grenade, that lever on that hand grenade down, it won't explode. I continue to say I don't want Chief Charlie Beck fired. I've already said that. Black Lives Matter is right. Any other chief would have been fired. I want him to do his job. You cannot pass that hand grenade to another chief. What Chief Charlie Beck has to do is feel around in the dark for that pin and get that pin and slowly put it back in that hand grenade. It won't go off. These are hand grenades right here for the Los Angeles Police Department. And you're holding it very delicately. And you can't lift that little thumb up on it because it'll go off. And if we continue to, the LAPD continue to kill people like this, that hand grenade will resonate in Louisiana and cause 9 cops to be killed.
Mr. Herman?
Well, I came prepared. I'm listening. I'm listening in regards to the involved shootings. I'm listening to the officers who were shot. I'm listening to the public outcry, outreach for participation. But on deaf ears, because the shootings involved in Los Angeles radiate throughout our nation, state after state. To all you officers who feel threatened out in the community, I feel bad for you. I really do. It's terrible to see that you have to go in force in order just to watch each other's backs because of shootings. It's like brought out by the first speaker before me. I don't like to use names. But when you hold that grenade and that pin slips out of your hand, unfortunately, collateral damage radiates like a domino effect. Click, 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 click. We don't want that. We don't want shootings by one officer sergeant, one police officer 3, 2 police officers 2, and 1 police officer 1. So you see, I'm always listening, although I wear a mask. A mask because I have to hide from all the bad things you've created. All the bad things you can't relate to on the boards in here, to protect and to serve. That's why the people here are in an outcry, because they want you to hear. Go to public safety meetings and listen to the dwarf, as stated in the Daily News.
Okay, we have 3 comment cards on 5B. We have Mr. Herman, Prentice Jenkins, and Ted Hayes.
I'm back. And can you correct me? What item you said, ma'am? So I can stay on topic.
5B.
5B. Is that the one on public employee discipline and dismissal release?
Yes.
You see, we have wonderful rank and file officers. They do a tremendous job. But the problem is, our own police go after the whistleblowers. And such whistleblowers, unfortunately, sometimes have to go from blue to the dark side of things. We don't want that. We don't want that. See, if the glove doesn't fit, we must acquit. But when it comes to the performance of evaluation, shouldn't our rank and file be considered with more consideration to the offense? No, overruled. I object. Why? Because they have the same passion of heart and mind, except they lack the training, the efficiency of what good training would do, so they wouldn't fall into this offensive public employee discipline or dismissal. So before you raise your hand up, Mr. Johnson, and strike down with force, think of these rank and files and their families. Your brothers, you call them brothers. No, I call them sworn-in police officers who made a mistake and may be given a chance, maybe not out in the field, but a potential, a possibility, maybe within the department, so that they're given a second chance, like 422 APC.
Prentice Jenkins.
Prentice Jenkins, published a City Life newsletter, activist since 1991. We're talking about a complaint. We're talking about the complaint. One moment. We're discussing a complaint relative to investigation concerning complaint file number 1400710 pursuant to government code. What is that complaint? I looked for it in the back of that book and I couldn't find it.
It's for closed session, Mr. T-Fank.
It's in closed session, Mr. Jenkins. It's a personnel complaint, and those matters are confidential. Therefore, it will not be in the document, but it does have to be noticed that the commission is going to discuss it in closed session.
Okay, so even though it's a complaint, we won't know what the complaint is about, but we can comment on it?
You can comment on the agenda item, but you will not know what the complaint is about.
Okay, so I'll comment on the agenda item of the complaint. This complaint file number 1400710 is so secretive that I'll be here all week. Yeah, I mean, how is it possible for us to comment on something that we know nothing about?
You also are very versed in the Myers-Milius-Brown Act. That's where it's covered, so I would suggest you look at that and the Ralph M. Brown Act also. Both
Okay.
Brown Acts cover that area.
But there have been court cases that suggest that, that complaints like this that are filed, that are discussed in closed session, should not have been discussed in closed session, because it is a complaint. And once you put it on the agenda, now it has to be discussed in public, because it's on the agenda. Now, I'm no lawyer, like my mother used to say. All right? But I can figure this out. And this says it's on the agenda, so we have to discuss the complaint. Now you actually have to discuss the complaint. You don't have to give names of the people that the complaint was filed against, but you must discuss the complaint now. So I'd like to defer to my learned scholar colleague here, Mr. T. Fank.
Let me help you out with this.
Go ahead.
Ted Hayes.
Mr. Hayes, do you have a comment on this?
Yeah, the speaker card, yeah.
You got to read that entire Brown Act. This should be very simple. It's the government code. Simple because the number is so simple. 12525. And the most important thing about this code is there's two sections that are important to the police department. One talks about the writings. These writings are public records within the meaning of the Brown Act and are open to public for inspection. But here's what it says. It says, any case in which a person dies while in custody of any law enforcement agency or while in custody of a local or state correctional facility of the state, the law enforcement agency or the agency in charge of the correctional facility shall report in writing to the Attorney General within, and get this folks, 10 days. Not 10 months, not a year, within 10 days of the death. Now just point out these are public records, they're open for disclosure. So it should be somewhere that the persons who've been killed by the LAPD, who died in custody in the care of the LAPD, we have a right to know what took place. Because it says, all the facts in the possession of the law enforcement agency shall be disclosed. So I made the request to the Inspector General, Executive Director for this information. Mr. T-Pack, I'll be waiting for the letter that you sent me, because that's the only information. Now, I submitted this about 4 times at the front desk. It never got to you. So the police officers always circumvent. I should have put a postage stamp on it, then I guess it might have gone through. Anyway, looking forward to the 10 days worth of information.
There are no other comment cards on this item. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item number 5A and B in accordance with Government Code 54957. The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We're back in open session. In closed session, item number 5A1 was discussed, and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted as amended. In closed session, item number 5A2 was discussed, and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 5A3 was discussed, and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 5A4 was discussed, and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted as amended. In closed session, item number 5A5 was discussed, and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. And in closed session, item number 5AB was discussed and adjudicated. Mr. President, is there a motion to adjourn?
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.